The first order of business on our agenda tonight is to set the remaining meeting dates. Does this time, going forward, will this day and time work for everyone? A Sunday evening at 8 p.m.?
Actually, not for me.
Okay, are you just not available on Sundays or not at this time?
Just at Sunday at 8 p.m., I'm sorry to say.
So would earlier on a Sunday work for you?
Yes, it would. And any day from Monday to Tuesday, or Monday to Friday, Saturday, after 6.
Monday at 8 work for everybody?
Monday at 8 would be getting a little late for me because I'd have to be up at 4 the following morning.
Would Thursday night work for everyone?
Depends largely on the time. I will have to be up at 4 in the morning on Tuesday through Friday mornings. So any night preceding that, I wouldn't want to be in a meeting past about... I would want the meeting to end at about 8 or 9. So I'm not against it. It would just have to be earlier in the evening.
Tuesday through Saturday, I work until 9.
Okay.
I am off Mondays, so I could actually do like 6 p.m. Monday.
My work allows for a lot of free time, so I'll just work with whatever goes with the most majority of people.
So are there any objections to... Well, Rosedeath, you said Monday through Friday after 6?
Yes, and I can also do earlier on Sunday as well.
Okay, so how does everyone feel about, say, 6:30 on Mondays?
I cannot do Mondays. I literally get off of work at 6 and then I go to another meeting.
Oh, we lost him. Here he comes.
Sorry, somehow I got booted. Mondays do not work for me. I literally get off work at 6 p.m. and then I go to another meeting at 7, and I don't have much time in there for me to even eat and change clothes.
Okay, so let's go back to looking at earlier on Sunday. Would about 6 or 6:30 work for everyone on a Sunday?
Yeah.
That would work for me.
Okay, sweet deal. That sounds like a plan. So, the next thing we would need to do is set sort of regularity of the meetings. The last Council of Crowns met the second and fourth weeks of every month, with the second week being a Council of Crowns meeting and the fourth week being a Board of Directors meeting. How does that sound to all of you guys to keep that pattern?
I'm good with it.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Awesome. I will jot that down, and when this meeting is over, I will record that as our meeting schedule. Oh, and to clarify, did anyone have a preference? I said 6 or 6:30, and everyone agreed, but I didn't specify one. Is either of those better or worse than the other two? Anyone?
I'd personally prefer 6:30 just because our part gets out at 4, and then a little bit of that little half-hour cushion would be nice.
Sure. So second and fourth Sundays at 6:30. Sounds like a winner.
Would that work for you, Rosa?
Absolutely.
Rosedeath will tell you if it doesn't.
Thank you guys for working around that.
Yeah, totally. Do we want to make sure that everyone can make it to the meetings, especially since they count against your officer attendance now?
Oh shoot, yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. All right, cool. So the next thing on our agenda, Loop and Moon had an Althing this weekend. Actually, Hars, do you want to kind of tell everyone what happened there in that Althing?
Certainly. So I sort of neglected in announcing it as early as I was supposed to when it came to announcing my Althing for appointing Sindhar or Laura as my regent, and I guess the whole thing was just wanting to get that ratified.
Yeah. So to clarify, the reason he had to do it via an Althing is the BAM states that he shall appoint a regular member, which Laura is not because of attendance issues previously, but they will not be issues going forward. So he brought it to an Althing to have the Althing essentially appoint her as regent, which did pass through the Althing, but because it was not announced a week ahead of time, the BAM allows for that, but any Althing called without a week's notice has to be ratified by the Council of Crowns. So basically, we just have to vote on if we're okay with what Hars's Althing accomplished. So on that note, I'm just gonna go, for being able to keep it in my mind, I'm just gonna go north to south and call each park and then get your vote on it. So Astral wins.
Yes.
Ravenstone.
Ravenstone, yes.
Loop and Moon's obvious. Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just because this is my own choice, I'll abstain from the overall.
Okay, fair enough. Frozen Coast.
Frozen Coast, yes.
Ice Fire Bay.
Ice Fire Bay, yes.
Okay, so Hars, your Althing is ratified.
Oh yeah.
All right, chugging right along. The next thing I had here, I realized in the agenda it was a little ambiguous. It just says Northreach PM invitation, but an idea that was brought to me. What? Oh, sorry. Hang on. Getting messages from a member here. 1 second. Okay, so it was brought to my attention that something I had forgotten. We haven't had the board meeting to formally appoint Dieter as the monarch of Astral Winds. So while Dieter, you were 100% welcome to be here as a voice from Astral Winds, we cannot actually count votes from you at this time because you're not officially their monarch.
Correct. I was just I introduced myself as an interim monarch this weekend until the vote goes forward.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I was just asked to address that because I had actually asked for your vote in the ratification, and I forgot that I can't do that yet. So I just wanted to touch on that so we were all on the same page and clear. And thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so continuing with what I was saying, the reason I have Northreach Prime Minister invitation on the agenda If you all notice, Hadeland is actually here with us tonight and doing our live streaming. And it was an idea that was brought to me to potentially invite the Northreach PM to the COC meetings as sort of a legal advisor, so that she won't, be a voting member or anything, but as we are going through with our battle plans, she can be there with information from the BAM, make sure we're, dotting our I's, crossing our T's, that sort of thing. And we have the added bonus of her doing the live streaming for us. Does anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about that plan?
So just to reiterate, she's basically like our immediate legal consultant in this circumstance?
Basically, yes.
As a parliamentarian.
Yeah.
Since she is a wealth of knowledge, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so. And given that I'm not hearing any voices against it, I will go ahead and officially invite Hadeland to our meetings going forward. No, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing on our list is Principality Day. We're kind of in an interesting situation, not any worse than Loop and Moons, but along with their indoor site collapsing, so did our Principality Day site. I had a thought. I was just in Loop and Moon yesterday, and that's Bernard Center. Hars, are you guys, I know you were talking about, are you guys going to be there going forward? Is that going to be a regular site now?
I put up a pulse in like what the general consensus seems to be from the park, and by the looks of things, yes, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, that was kind of what I heard from your people talking to. It sounded like everybody was in favor of that place.
It's a nice place.
Yeah, dude, it was pretty nice. Do you think that would be big enough for our Principality Day? I mean, I think that it might actually work.
Maybe. I would have to double check again, like this, just this coming weekend, because I'm gonna be getting on the phone with them sometime tomorrow when they're open to just work out the logistics of setting it up as a month-to-month thing. And I'd say it's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little smaller than the field we used at the Dome, but I don't know that we required all of that field. Nice as it was to have, don't get me wrong. I don't know that size field was quite necessary, even when we had our 100 and something people day. It was a good thing.
True.
It was a good thing to have a field that size, but I don't know that we needed it. And I think that the Spadarn Center might work for us.
I think it might too, actually. I just, if you guys, I know you were talking to me about checking out that one location that was like right on the edge out of town. Did you still want me to check that out just in case?
I mean, if you want to, somebody else mentioned that. I think it was Ty mentioned that. And I just said that sounds interesting. If you want to look into it and see if it'll work better for us, you're welcome to. I don't know much about that place at all myself.
I'll swing by tomorrow and see if I can snag a few pictures of the inside, see if it works.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking if not though, with the Spadarn Center, I mean, we sort of piggybacked on Loop and Moon's indoor site and schedule as it was. With the Spadarn Center being potentially big enough, I was thinking maybe we could just do that again to ensure that we don't have to change the date, because we had discussed we might have to change the date depending on venue. And if we just piggyback on your schedule, then we wouldn't have to.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for right now, we will just kind of put a pin in and table this pending reports from HARS in the next few days, sometime this week. But yeah, HARS, if you can just double check that and let me know, that'd be awesome.
Actually, when is our board of directors meeting? That's in 2 days, right?
That's on Wednesday, yes, sir.
All right. Reason I'm asking is because then I can just report my findings at that meeting at that time.
Okay, great.
What is the proposed date for the Principality Day?
March 4th. Oh, the other super important thing that I really wanted to talk about, we definitely need to mobilize all the troops and get everyone we can to this Principality Day, because for our Kingdom bid, this is the last Principality Day that we get to count our attendance towards making the total attendance. So we want to make sure we have everybody there.
Absolutely. So, in other words, we need to start hyping this up pretty much after this meeting's done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, realistically, we probably should have been hyping this meeting up that day up 2 weeks ago, but there was some uncertainty and confusion, and I didn't want to start blasting a time and place and then have to go back and counter all those blasts if we changed it.
Alright, I'll give a last look to this location we were talking about, and then I'll just pretty much start firing up the hype train.
Sweet. On that note, however, I did just receive a message with a fairly decent point. Did we want to try and match the March Principality Day with Grand Academy so that all happens in the same weekend? Honestly, thinking about it, I think that might actually be pretty smart.
Well, if you were to pair those together, then would it maybe be smart to reschedule it for the end of March, like the 25th, as opposed to the beginning, to give extra time to set everything up?
It'll also give us time to set up some living spaces for people who are going to be staying multiple days.
Yes, and I would have to double check, but I think Grand Academy is scheduled for mid to late March.
Late March would definitely.
Like spring break time is what I remember, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I will actually get that information on when we had that set up. Oh, I'm receiving reports here that we don't really have a lot of organization or advertising set up for Grand Academy yet, and with it being potentially next month, this might be an event that we actually we either need to cancel it or get working on it yesterday.
Perhaps we should follow up with who was initially autocrating it. I believe it was Mara, right?
It was, yes.
Alright, because I know we're already kind of throwing everything we can into just the kingdom at this point. I would not be opposed to I guess canceled is an ugly word here, but I wouldn't be opposed to postponing it till after we get everything else sorted out of the way.
Perhaps if there were just a couple classes to give people a taste of what the Grand Academy is, sort of a preview. That would add a little more hype to Principality Day and cause more interest and grab more people's attention, but only have a couple classes over the weekend as opposed to a bunch of them.
That's potentially doable. I do need to follow up with Mara, but I do believe she had actually already reserved rooms for us at the BP Energy Center. So that's potentially pretty doable, actually. So I'll tell you what, guys, for right now, let's put a pin in Principality Day for a couple days here. I will follow up with Mara, and then let's maybe come back to this at the board meeting on Wednesday.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Cool. So that's what we'll do with that one. The next thing on the agenda, I've been talking with Goran in the last few days, and he told me about this really cool thing that a lot of sort of big organizations do called a request for bid. And basically it's a sheet that we would put out that, how can I explain this? Let's see. So like, for example, for Wolf's Cry, we would put out a request for bid, and it would say anyone who wants to be the autocrat for this event would have to fill this sheet out. And we basically set parameters, like, you know, it has to have a field this big, it has to have, you know, it has to have these things, has to be around this time and whatnot. And then we will review all the bids that we receive following that format, and as a council pick the best one. I do have an electronic document to send to you guys so you can sort of see what I'm talking about. I just totally spaced doing it before the meeting today. But as a concept idea, what does everyone think about that?
How familiar is Goran with it? If he was up here in the chat, could he answer any questions about it?
I'm certain of that. And if, Goran, if you're in spectators in discussion and want to come up and chat about it, I would certainly welcome that.
Yeah, I can answer questions if you guys have any.
Did anyone have any questions for Goran on the way that all works?
Well, I had a question and then I just space brained it, so I'm useless. If I think of it later, I'll just ask him in message. I'm sorry.
Well, for the benefit of like all of our spectators and everybody who's going to be watching this later, could you just give us like a basic breakdown of how it would work?
Sure. So when larger organizations, government, state agencies, whatever, whenever they need something done and they have to essentially hire a company to do it, they put out what's an RFP or an RFB, which is a request for proposal or request for bid. And some of these documents can be monstrous, right? Be like, but it literally just details everything that needs to happen in the project, and includes like financial constraints or just basically it's just a giant list of parameters. And then companies can look at these parameters, figure out how much it's going to cost them, find out whether or not it might make a profit for them or whatever, make a decision on whether or not to bid. For our events, it would clear up pretty much all of the confusion as to what you're supposed to put in a bid. Because like if it said, I'm accepting bid cry, anyone who might be interested in Wolves really no clue what a bid was. Like that word doesn't mean anything to them in this context. So if you put out like a 2-page sheet that said, we want to hold an event called Wolf's Cry. It must be held between these 3 weeks, on the calendar, and it's got to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It should be held within 100 miles of, Palmer, and it must be on a site that has a 90,000 square foot field. It must have dining facilities for 150 people, et cetera. You just detail out exactly what has to happen. That gives any potential autocrats or any bids that get submitted, it gives them the freedom to explore any options that they want, so long as it meets the basic requirements of the organization. They can go above and beyond what's in the bid, but those are the bare minimums. And what that ensures you as a council is that every bid you get all has a consistent, like, bare minimum, like, standard, so that you can ensure that your members will, and in that same thing, you can put like the budget for this event not exceed, say, $3,000. No matter what pricing scheme you use for ticket, there must basic entry level that may not exceed $25. Things like that. And and then you list exactly how the submission must be made. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been told I'm cutting out. How much of that did you guys miss?
I got the good gist of it.
Okay. So, and then you can, requirements for, so you can say it must be submitted no later than this, must be submitted to this email address, et cetera, et cetera. And you give a place where they can ask for questions and clarification. And since the request for bid goes out pretty much to the populace in general, your average member can see what you guys have decided the bids are for the event. So they know what to expect. Anyone that wants to bid on it, bidding on. Say this is the bare minimum. This can not only achieve their minimum, but exceed it to this. We like what they're doing. We're going to go ahead and let them run it. And then you've got a nice benchmark to sort of grade the event at the end of it, for all of those post-event purposes.
Cool.
I mean, it's an incredibly common business practice. Like, this is just the way these things are done. If you just Googled you could find, a bajillion websites about it, I'm sure. But I did send Lucian just a super basic example of what one might look like, so that the council could potentially use that to form their requests for proposals or bids.
Well, so my first thought is that we actually have a friend that has done a government bid before, and they got the bid and they were actually got a lot of mean feedback from the other people putting in bids because they didn't take their amount and triple it before they put in their bid. So my first concern is that perhaps by going across the bid process, that perhaps we'll end up having to pay more for our facilities, but that maybe it would be good in a way to organize a lot of our information.
Well, you can't more than you tell people you're willing. So if you put out a bid that says we're not going to pay more than $2,000 for this event, then you can't pay more than $2,000 for that. That's part of the bid. If they say, well, I can do it for $2,500, you can be like, that's awesome if it was $500 less, because that's what the bid requires.
Well, sure, but perhaps the same space would have been gotten for $500.
I'm not sure I'm following you. Are you so are you saying that people would lie about how much it?
I'm saying that if you tell people how much you're willing to pay for a space, then they're willing to take as much as you're willing to pay. But if, I've had a lot of experience with people giving some really great deals without just, saying this is our max amount that we can afford.
No. This is for membership who are going to become autocrat at the event themselves. That's telling them what the budget is for the event.
So basically, Arian, we wouldn't be giving that information to whoever we're renting sites from. It would go to our members who want to be autocrats for their information.
Okay.
Also, I just sent everyone emailed everyone that sample that Goran sent me. So whenever you guys get a chance, if you want to look it over, it has now been sent to you. So overall, I'm thinking that this would be very beneficial to Amtgar or to Northreach, as a whole. Did anyone else have thoughts on it?
Would we need to update the BAM to reflect a step like that?
I mean, we could. I don't think that it would be necessary. It would just be, for right now, our process for selecting an autocrat is simply, saying, hey, we need an autocrat. People speak up. We have a meeting and decide who we want. Basically, this formalizes a lot of that. And it just kind of formalizes the process. I don't think it would need to change anything in the BAM.
So
Doesn't sound like something. Oh. Go ahead,
no,
Rosette.
you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, we had that mix up, and I lost my train of thought, but I got it back now. It doesn't seem like it's something that really warrants the process of revising the if we toss together an autocrat's handbook. Hey, this is how it's been done in the past. Here's some ways to go about it. This seems like something would be good to toss in there.
The only thing I'm weary about is doing it one way for 6 months, and then, no offense, Prince Lucian, but when the end of your reign comes and your replacement is elected, maybe they don't necessarily want get members that way. So if we think proactively and make the changes to the BAM, then we're not necessarily quote unquote wasting our time on this, because I think it's a good idea. I think we should definitely do it that way, but the next guy in the next reign might not think that.
Oh, so your question was less of a do we have to and more of a do you think it would be a good idea to?
Well, if we're doing this based on executive order, then easily the next person could just have an executive order to not do this anymore. So a good proposal, I guess, I'm not sure if this is what I'm taking, if I'm taking the right thing from what you're saying, Rosdat, but are you saying we should find a way to draft this into our admin's manual or our corpora in a later draft?
I think it definitely should go into the admin's manual. After we formalize, I haven't even looked at the document you emailed me, Lucian, but after we formalize it for our use, I think it should definitely be how we get.
Yeah, looking through it, it just seems to be I'm looking through it right now, mostly skimming, but it seems like it just mostly goes over all the logistical things that would be for pretty much just how you would set up any event. The example used in this here is Wolf's Cry, but it could be very well applied to a variety of different things like Solstice Wars or Dungeon Crawl.
Yeah, it's a really pretty basic document. It's pretty straightforward. It's super awesome, I think.
I like it, yeah.
Looks like it really streamlined things on our end and up looking for different venues, pretty much force places to compete for us. So, I'm all in favor of that.
Yeah, the whole idea behind it is to streamline the process, to make it clearer, make it, I just totally revitalize it and make it way more awesome. So it sounds like everyone's in favor of at least starting with it, and then I have added in my to-do list notes here to look into potentially, once we have a formalized process, adding it into the BAM at a later date.
Cool beans.
Yeah, we could definitely use this reign as a beta test for it, if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that being said, we're going to want to put some of those out pretty quickly for some events that we have coming up in the very near future, such as Ren Fair, Solstice Wars, and really it would be a good idea to get those out there now for essentially every event this year, and then we can get some bids, appoint some autocrats, and just, do more work now so there's less to do later, basically. Did that make sense to everyone? What I'm saying?
I mean, I did have somebody in mind for who could autocrat a Ren Fair for this year, but if we wanted to use that as like a sort of a test event, we could totally do that.
Yeah, I mean, totally have that person fill one out, and let's get it done.
All right, yeah. Once we get that finalized, I'll just let them know the situation and point them in your direction.
Okay. So what I will do between now and Wednesday, I will. You guys see the sort of sample one there for Wolf's Cry. I will draft up a starting point for one for every event that we need to cover this reign. I'll email it out to you guys as soon as I get them done, and then that'll be another thing that we can go over on Wednesday and approve and or tweak and or approve those forms so that we can get them out to the populace after Wednesday night.
And we're operating under total transparency, right? Like if we're going to be looking over these bids, would they be able to be viewed by the public?
Yes, absolutely.
Just wanted to make sure that was covered.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, so that worked for everyone. I'll draft those up in the next day or two, and then we'll go over it Wednesday and then get them out Wednesday night.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Great. Moving on. Gideon, you wanted to chat about the Reggie system. The floor is yours.
Okay, so right when the system was first introduced, I had put up a post in the Facebook page a while back, just kind of asking for details on it. I kept speaking with it was Will Heartless at the time. I could never really get like a clear-cut answer of the details of the program. Just kind of fallen by the wayside recently, at least out in Ravenstone. I haven't heard of it in a while. I haven't seen anything on the Principality page either. I know it was used for the Northreach auctions, but I'm not sure what we used it for past that. And I was just kind of curious as to its continued viability, whether we need to like change something with it to make it a little more accessible to people. I mean, I know that we had the auctions, but if we got people just saving up for the auctions, bids on those items, there's going to be a lot of people that can't exactly get stuff with it. So how about instead of just using it for that, potentially maybe doing like some park level stuff with it as well? I just wanted to get thoughts on that.
Okay, so to clear up confusion and try to answer your questions here, the Reggie system originally exists 100% for the purpose of the auction. The purpose behind the auction was to drive up hype to get people to go to Principality Day, because that's the only place you can spend your Reggies. So the idea being that there would be an auction every Principality Day. Your officers are giving out Reggies for, I mean, almost whatever they see fit, right? Like somebody cleaning up trash at your park, give them some Reggies. Somebody takes the time to help the champion set up and tear down games, give them some Reggies. That sort of thing. Just for whatever you see fit in your park, you give them out, and then they can spend them at the Principality Day on the auction. So as far as past the auction, there wasn't ever a point or use for the Reggies. They exist solely for that purpose. We could potentially do something else with them at a park level, but it would definitely need to be something we as a council talk about before we implement anything, because what I don't want is to take away from the draw of the auction and sort of defeat the program's purpose. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course.
But that's not to say that there isn't something we can do. So if you have some ideas on what you would like to do, by all means send them to me, and I'll be happy to go over them with you, and we can hash something out that might work.
Cool. Yeah, I just I like the idea of the program, but it just I don't know. It seemed to have like a really big hype for a while, and then kind of died down. Especially, did we have auction? I don't remember seeing the posting for an auction for the last one Principality Day.
Well, the last one
Planning on having
Principality
one.
Day was. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, were we planning on having one for this upcoming one to keep that
Yes.
hype going? Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say the last Principality Day we had was Dungeon Crawl, so that's probably why you didn't see anything for that.
Right, and honestly, that was an oversight. There actually was a plan to have an auction at the Dungeon Crawl, but pretty much all of us planning the event just got caught up in the things that you normally do at Dungeon Crawl. We forgot to add the new things.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, no problem there. It's just I didn't remember seeing one for. I can't remember if they fall on Saturdays, so I can never really make it to them.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. We have definitely had an auction every Principality Day, with the exception of Dungeon Crawl, and we definitely will have one this coming auction. I have flyers already made up for every Principality Day. The only reason I haven't put out the March one yet, with all of what can be purchased on the auction, is I was waiting to finalize the change of location so that I can update that on the flyer before I put it out.
Cool.
So again, that'll be something that's taken care of Wednesday after we discuss Hars's findings and make a plan.
We want to try and kind of amp things up and do pretty much get it like the best auction list we've ever had. I mean, I know there's usually like one class credit for each class. Do we want to do like a 2-class credit thing in addition to that to just kind of really drive people in?
I don't know that that'll be necessary. The auction drums up enough hype to do its job, I think. Admittedly, it doesn't bring up as much hype as I had hoped when I came up with the plan, but it does its job at any rate, just not maybe as well as I had originally hoped.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, that'll be good. Like I said, that's all planned out. Like what's on every auction and all that is already all planned out for the year, and already the information's already on flyers. I just have to get the new site that we're going to be using for Principality Days, update the remaining flyers with that site, and then we'll be up and running again on Wednesday.
Nice. That's about all I had on the Reggies. I'm kind of curious on like a state of the project and how it was moving forward. So I'm good to go.
All right, sounds good, man. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions at any time. So that brings us to our last thing on the agenda tonight, and that is we have a request for an approval for FireFlashWind to be able to play Amped Guard. Hars, do you have that message from Christy in front of you to read for everyone, or did everyone get a chance to read it?
Yes, I read it.
Yep, same here.
Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up.
Okay, sounding like it might not be necessary. It sounds like everyone did read it. Is there anyone here who did not read it? Okay, sweet deal. On that note, I did want to let everyone know that I have received a anonymous message to sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to answer a different message at the same time. I did receive an anonymous message stating, and I will read the pertinent parts to you here in a second. Okay, so this member suggested that should we approve him, we do so on a probationary status. They state having only interacted with the kid at Lupin Moon, and the text here says he has shown, while playing among other children in Lupin Moon, he has shown himself extremely volatile and prone to emotional outbursts. That might be because he'd rather be playing on the field, and my hope is that that is the case and he will be calmer and show himself more capable on the field. But essentially, to summarize, they suggest that we do so on a probationary period just in case it does become a problem, and it's easier then to say, hey, your probationary period didn't work out than it is to approve him and go back and try to take that away.
So, I'd like to interject if possible because I was the original Monarch who he played on my field. So, originally when we let him play on our field, the deal is that he needed to follow all rules that were on the field. If at any time he is called out for not following the rules, not taking his hits, whatever, he would be sitting out for the rest of the day. And if it became an issue, his status would be revoked. And he seemed to do quite well with a very defined, you do this or you're not going to play. He did very well for a time. And then they moved down to Anchorage, and we haven't seen him since.
Okay. Thank you, Dieter. Also, for the council's consideration, I've received a message from the Principality champion stating that he does not approve. Just for everyone's information.
I was informed that Akira said that she only allowed him to play one game per day.
Correct. That was when he originally that's when he started showing some outbursts on the field, and so we scaled him back to he got to play one, and that was it. Also, that was a change because she was the new incoming Monarch, so that was her call, not mine, because I was the outgoing one.
That's fair. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, thank you. Did it? I don't actually know FireFlashWind at all. I wouldn't recognize them on field, so I guess I don't really have a lot of input here. Hars, being the Monarch of the park he goes to now, what are your thoughts?
Well, I may have been the one to propose it, but But if I can be blunt, just based on the behavior I've seen from him at with the kids during battle games, and from his time at Annis Nights when the two of them have visited, I'm honestly not sure I would be comfortable letting him play with the crowd that we have.
Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty.
What about
coming
the
from?
idea?
Go ahead, Arian.
Well, I was just thinking with these younger members stepping up to join this group, we do require that they hold a certain level of maturity despite their age, and perhaps it would be helpful to just write up a brief oath that they can swear when they're coming in, so it can become very real to them, and that extra level of importance.
Did you do that at Ice Bay?
What we've done is we've done a mentor apprenticeship program so that each younger kid has somebody who's 14 to talk to. So they have at least one person that has agreed to, they're there for, they go on the same teams together. They're there to answer any questions. They're not always of the same class. We try to match class when we can. But that was originally the program that we had, and it seemed to work really well. It let those kids that were learning and stepping out into the field and into that responsibility, they had at least somebody that was older that was always at their disposal and could answer and clarify things.
So, I mean, honestly, the way I feel about all that, as someone said to me, if a player needs special rules to be allowed on the field, then they're not ready to be allowed on the field. What would be my input on it?
Honestly, I'm going to go with Hars's. Sorry, I'm tired tonight. I'm going to go with Hars on this one. If he, as hit the Monarch in that area, is not comfortable with the idea, then I'm not comfortable with the idea.
Yeah, having no knowledge of the kid myself, I would defer to Hars's judgment, being like you said, Rosedeath, being his Monarch. So if there's no more discussion, I guess we'll go ahead and call for a vote on this one. Ravenstone.
Ravenstone, no.
Lupin Moon.
Lupin Moon, no.
Frozen Coast.
Frozen Coast, no.
Icefire Bay.
No.
Icefire Bay, no.
Okay. That brings us to a unanimous no. Hars, do you want to be the bearer of bad news, or should I?
We can coin flip it. I'm okay with it, but it's ultimately your call.
Okay. So I guess to clarify, traditionally, I like to offer, when something involving a certain player comes up, I like to offer the local Monarch the chance to deal with it. If they don't want to or are not comfortable with it, then I'm happy to. So it's actually totally your call.
I'll bring it up to them because then they can, that way I can at least suggest some methods of improvement.
Okay, sounds good. I will leave that in your court then.
All right, sounds good.
If I might add, Hars, if you feel that individual improves to where they can play on the field, let us know that change is made.
Absolutely, I will make sure my endorsement is heard if my thoughts do change on it.
Yeah, totally. One no vote isn't like permanent. We can always revisit. So yeah, do let us know.
Yeah, this depending on like how persistent they are to actually try and make the change and like show that they're willing to learn these things, then I will gladly bring it up in a later meeting.
Sweet deal. And that actually brings us to the end of the agenda tonight, guys. Did anyone else have something they wished to discuss?
I actually did receive a PM regarding the auctions. According to this message I received, it says that there is a lot of people who have not received their winnings from the auctions, and are there any plans on improving it?
You certainly may.
Oh, also one thing I wanted to add, Orion, I do like the idea of possibly setting up some sort of mentorship program for younger players that are wanting to come into games at a later time or possibly earlier. So I'll at least take that idea that you gave me into consideration.
Yeah, that sounded like a really good idea. I like the.
So, I was just informed here as far as the class credits from the auctions, Aurora has those updated through November or up to November. So Hadeland, I guess that would be your starting point then, would be November. But yeah, so essentially what happened was I put somebody in charge of distributing the tangible items a little bit later than I should have, because initially I had planned on doing it myself. And I just got super overwhelmed and too busy. So then I appointed someone a few months in, and then their life got super overwhelmed and busy. And so it is being handled. We're definitely trying to get everyone their stuff. And like Hadeland said, she will be contacting people and keeping them in the loop. So that should all be taken care of in the near future, at least on the information part, if not on the actual tangible items part. Does that sufficiently answer your questions there, Hars?
Said person is actually not in the group right now, so I'd like to hope it does. I mean, it answered all my questions, so I think we should be good.
Okay. And by all means, if when you recontact that person, if there are unanswered questions, feel free to direct them to me, and I will do everything I can to help them out there.
Roger that.
I did just receive a message that would be a pretty phenomenal idea, if possible. If we could have tangible items thus far ready for this coming Principality Day, it would be a huge draw for people to go there, because come get your stuff is usually pretty incentivizing. I don't know if that's feasible or not, but I agree with the person who messaged it to me that it would be awesome if it is feasible.
I guess it all really depends on what the items themselves are.
True that. I know, just off the top of my head, I know there's a couple sets of tunics and pants that need to be done, some leather belts and pouches, and some weapons, but I'm not sure how many of those. I know the garb stuff isn't pre-made, because, again, we don't know who's going to buy it, so we want to make sure it fits that person.
I was actually thinking, because it's going to be like our big push day, what if we want to like put on something really big as like a special item to auction off? Sorry if I cut out there for a second.
No, I got you. I heard you. Yeah, potentially. Let me take a look at the auctions. I think we had intended to auction off an artifact at Dungeon Crawl, which we didn't. So I could probably move that to the March day, and then yeah, we could do that.
Sounds good.
Could we get a preview of which artifact for the folks in the spectators area, so they get a little tuning in?
No, it's super top secret classified. No, I'm kidding. It's actually an artifact that had been approved by Dragonspine a long time ago for Astral Winds, that we sort of adopted in Northreach, and it's called the Bow of Mystic Power. And there are people that could explain it to you better than I can, but what I remember, the understanding I got from it is it's a bow that essentially shoots spell balls as arrows. I mean, they're arrows, but they have the effects of different spell balls.
I like it.
So yeah, that was supposed to be on the February auction, I believe. And as you all know, that didn't happen. So yeah, I could probably move that right on over to the March auction and use that as a huge draw. No pun intended.
Now, would they just get the ability to use a bow as that, or do we have a spare bow lying around?
We do.
Silver.
The actual bow would be up to the player. We do not actually have a physical representation. But I can almost promise you. Oh, I've just received a message from Goran. He says he will donate a bow. So yes, we do have a bow.
Awesome.
We can doll it up to make it look all fancy and mystic-like.
Heck yes. And that in itself be kind of an incentive to say that, it's not just a thing that you get to bid on, but it's sitting right here on the table. Come bid on it.
I was going to say, I know Goran also donated a bow, but I could also build a PVC bow, much like my one I have on the field right now.
Yeah, I mean, one way or the other, I'll start a chat with the three of us after this meeting, and we'll hammer out which route we want to go. Because I'm pretty well okay with either, so we'll talk about that. But all right, guys. Anything else?
Yeah, so we've been getting asked questions about when Solstice Wars will be. We additionally have a couple people who have been volunteering to autocrat Solstice Wars, but I was under the understanding that we were going to do bids for it, and we are waiting for the Council of Crowns meeting to make an actual, bids are open announcement for people to submit bids.
Cool. So that would be something that we would finalize on Wednesday. In the next couple days, I will draw up the bid packets for each event, including Solstice Wars. And then pending the Council of Crowns approving those drafts on Wednesday, we'll get them out. And those people that want to autocrat are welcome to fill those out and submit them. And then we will pick an autocrat as quickly as humanly possible. As far as when Solstice Wars is, I know it's in May. I want to say it's the third week is ringing a bell.
Well, that also comes a lot down to the bid, just because dates for a set field are going to be slightly different. But I'm not in charge of that. That's the autocrat.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. I know that the dates was something that was in the example bid, it being set between this date and that date, which is something we can do for Solstice Wars, or we can do it as broad as will be set in the month of May. Whatever the council wants to do, but that will definitely be a thing that we will take care of Wednesday for sure to get it out. We'll start that meeting with the vote on getting you appointed, Dieter, so that, assuming it passes, which I don't see why it wouldn't, for the rest of the meeting, you will at that point be a monarch and be able to vote and act in the full capacity of a monarch for everything else we're going to do on Wednesday.
So
Okay.
So I just thought of this, and I wish I would have thought of it earlier. When we start passing around these bids, how are we going to get that around? Are we going to upload them to the forums for archiving purposes, or are we just going to post a link to the PDF on Facebook?
We will definitely be putting them on the forums because over time, and it doesn't even take that long, stuff becomes really difficult to find on Facebook. So what we will very likely do is we will put them up on the forums and then post links to the forum where it can be found on Facebook.
And one other thing that I just thought of is, are we going to ask them to reply based off of the PDF? So I mean, the first part of the PDF says it's available, or we want to do this time to this time, and you tell us where the location is going to be. Are they going to basically reply in that PDF format, or are they just going to reply like a paragraph?
No, the idea would be for them to fill out that sheet and submit it back to us.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've got a lot of questions all of a sudden. Do we also want to make that to where it's an open edit document to where they can just type in what they have or their answer to that?
Well, no, largely because we could have more than one bid for different events. So basically what I will be putting up is a sort of template that people are able to download, and then they can edit and put in their information in the required spots and then re-upload their response, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. Again, I apologize, guys. I'm very tired right now.
Happens to the best of us. All right, but with that, I believe that concludes everything. We can maybe let Roseth get some sleep now, huh?
Woohoo!
All right, guys. Thank you all for your time tonight. I will talk to you in a few days here on Wednesday.